Worked as a community organizer. I don't think most people stop and think, what does a community organizer do? He doesn't organize a community. Well, he's not telling people in the community how to shop better and stuff like that. He is mobilizing all the resentments, organizing them in order to put them into a battle to get what they want from other people.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I wanted to check out another video from one of the smartest guys that I've come across, America's top economist, or one of America's top economists, the legendary Dr. Thomas Sowell, who is still writing, still putting out books. I believe he's written, over 20 books. And this brother is just phenomenal. He is a national treasure. And it's just unfortunate that he doesn't get the level of prestige that, in my opinion, I think he should. But because of the things that he stands on and the things that he believes, it's unfortunate that, the mainstream won't represent or recognize this brother and give him his flowers or give him his flowers today as they should. Thomas Sowell goes in on Obama, and I'm 100% here for it. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. And without further ado, let's go.
Decline and fall. From Dismantling America, quote, "The collapse of a civilization is not just the replacement of rulers or institutions with new rulers and new institutions. It is the destruction of a whole way of life and the painful and sometimes pathetic attempts of rebuilding amid the ruins. Is that where America is headed? I believe it is." Close quote. Now, whatever troubles we have, it's still the richest, most powerful nation in the world. We're still fundamentally at peace. Some soldiers in Iraq, some soldiers in Afghanistan, some in Germany, some in South Korea, but relatively small wars by historical standards in Afghanistan and Iraq. How can you say such a thing?
Well, that description would also have fit the United States on December 6, 1941. So it's like the argument that was used when I used to question whether Social Security was fiscally sound. And I said, Social Security has never missed a payment. It's never been a day late or a dollar short. I said, that's always true right up to the moment of collapse.
Again, from Dismantling America. While the Obama administration is not the root cause of the ominous dangers that face this country at home and abroad, it is the embodiment, the personification, and the culmination of dangerous trends that began decades ago. How does the President of the United States embody dangerous trends? How do you see this man?
Oh my gosh. I see him as someone who all his life has been associated with and part of a group of people who fundamentally don't believe in the principles of this country. Not only people, the most obvious example, obviously, is Jeremiah Wright. People like Bill Ayers, whom he's tried to disavow. But people who fundamentally think that we're on the wrong track, we have the wrong principles, and we need to be changed, whether we want to be or not.
Tom, you mentioned Jeremiah Wright, his pastor at a church in Chicago. You mentioned Bill Ayers, who was a former member of
the Weather Underground.
The Weather Underground, exactly. What about his formation, his intellectual formation at Columbia, Harvard Law School?
Well, as he himself says, he always sought out the most radical people. He worked as a community organizer. I don't think most people stop and think, what does a community organizer do? He doesn't organize a community.
It's not bake sales. It's not bake sales he's organizing.
No, he's not telling people in the community how to shop better and stuff like that. He is mobilizing all the resentments, organizing them in order to put them into a battle to get what they want from other people.
Now, you talk about Barack Obama as embodying dangerous trends, quote, that began decades ago.
Oh, yes.
When? This is during your lifetime, during your adult lifetime?
Yes, and perhaps even a little earlier. But I think what you see in the most clearly, I think, in the academic world, are people who don't think that this country is a great country. One example of a colleague of mine who teaches at Harvard, after 9/11, put an American flag on his car. And his colleague said, "What is that for?" When I visited Berkeley in the aftermath of 9/11, when there were flags everywhere, I did not see one flag on the Berkeley campus on any of those expensive houses. When I was coming back from Berkeley, the first American flag I saw was in a low-income black neighborhood in Oakland. These are people who consider themselves citizens of the world, and that the rest of us are so lucky to have them here to change America, so that people like us don't have a voice. And of course, the whole way that Obama has operated with these enormous bills that no one has ever had time to read, that they rush through, where they're putting people in power who don't have to go through the confirmation process, so that we don't find out what they're like except if there's an expose on Fox News or someplace. I mean, his whole thing has been to circumvent the American public in order to put in things that they clearly don't want, as shown by the polls, as shown by this recent repudiation in Missouri.
All right, that's
I would agree with him 100%. And I remember one day we were out with some friends and we were having a conversation about President Obama. And obviously these are black people, maybe not obviously, but these are black people. This is a black couple. And they were really singing the praises of President Obama. And I asked him, what did he do that was so great? Name a policy that he implemented that you appreciated and that you liked. And they sat there for a second, and then a minute, and then finally came out and said, I don't know about policies. I just know he's the first black president. And we like him because of that. So, of course, as I continue the conversation and I start going down the list of the things that he did that actually hurt America, and then I had to explain to them that he's not like us. And they were like, what do you mean he's not like us? I was like, he doesn't have a connection to America like us. And they were like, what do you mean he doesn't have a connection to America like us? I'm like, okay, you're black. Where are your people from? Texas. Bet. Where are those people from? Oh, I believe they were slaves. Okay, bet. Where are my people from? Alabama, South Carolina. Where did those people come from? Oh, yeah, they were slaves. Okay. When you would go for the summer and go visit folks, where'd you go? Oh, my grandparents lived here. Same thing for me. My grandparents lived here. One of my other grandparents lived there. He doesn't have a connection to, he never had a connection to Black America, or what some of you guys would call FBA, foundational Black Americans, because he's not black like us. What do you mean he's not black like us? Well, his father is Kenyan. His connection would be in Kenya, although growing up, I never recall hearing him say, hey, during the summer, I used to go hang out with my father's people in Kenya. So he doesn't have a connection to them either. And that's what I meant by he's not like us. And then when you go and you find out more about his history and his upbringing, yes, being born in Hawaii, and I believe he went to high school out in Hawaii, but he spent a whole heck of a lot of time out in Indonesia because his mother married an Indonesian man, a very wealthy Indonesian man. So again, I say he's not like us. Tommy Sowell's 100% right. There was an old insider joke between George Bush and Barack Obama. He used to give Michelle some form of candy. And the insider joke is that's the kind of candy that George Bush used to give him when he was a little one. That was the insider joke. There were talks that this dude could be president 10 to 15 years before he actually became president. I don't know if you guys recall, but actually go back and look at his initial inauguration. George Bush had stood at George Bush, the second George Bush, not the first one. He was in the office for 8 years. If y'all don't recall, look at how chummy they were. It looked like, I wondered, I was like, man, it looks like they know each other from way back. And then I find out they do. That's why I say, when people say, oh, he didn't do anything for black people, of course he didn't, because he doesn't see himself like us. His agenda has been a global agenda from the beginning. We were just too blind, dumb, and stupid to see it. They used him, and they used the rhetoric of hope and change. And yes, there was no hope given, but a whole heck of a lot of change. And we're suffering the consequences of the policies that were implemented during his time frame and during his administration.
That's a question. Barack Obama won by about 7 percentage points. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest for a Democratic presidential candidate. Bill Clinton won by 8. FDR won by big. But he's in the top 3 Democratic finishers in the last 7 decades. Barack Obama is. So here's the question. You've described him. You've described the academic elites. To what extent the American people voted for him? Yes. To what extent do you see a corrosion of values among the American people themselves on the one hand? On the other hand, to what extent is there just a kind of creeping takeover by an elite that fails to share, that is opposed to the values that most Americans share?
There's both things. And I think part of the reason so many people voted for him was that what they got through the media was so filtered that they poo-pooed this man having been a member of a church run by a ranting racist because they wanted to believe that he was going to be a unifier. Community organizers don't unify. They divide, they polarize. That's how they get what they want. I never thought of Acorn as a unifying force in American life. And this man is not. But of course, if they don't know that, then of course they may vote for him.
So it's the press, it's Barack Obama and the administration, it's the elites at academic institutions.
But it's not just a thing that happened now. Long before Barack Obama's name became known, there was this attitude, essentially repudiating the principles of the country. I mean, it started, I think, with Woodrow Wilson, who was the first president of the United States to openly say that the Constitution, needed to be superseded. And he didn't mean that there needed to be amendments to the Constitution, which anybody can be for, but that the courts should do this. In other words, to circumvent the voting public, and put in the things that the judges think ought to be put in, irrespective of what the Constitution says.
How did we go in the space of a couple of decades, maybe 3, but I think probably closer to 2, from an America in which the notion of same-sex marriage was literally unthinkable. That is to say, it was in nobody's head, so outlandish that it never occurred to anyone, to a sitting judge, federal judge, named to the federal bench, by the way, by George H.W. Bush.
Heaven help us.
Coming out with an opinion like this. What happened to the legal regime, to the social to the mores? This is
why I say that Obama is really the culmination of a trend. He didn't do this by himself. That there was a notion out there, a set of notions really about the country, about what was right, and about who should make what decisions. Those notions were out there, before he ever became a public figure. But now that and I think what you saw was an erosion of the confidence in the country and the country's culture, its principles, and so forth. And all of this happened. And what is happening now is what was just an erosion, sort of almost uncoordinated and so on, to a deliberate attempt on his part to change the country in fundamental ways.
Wow. Thomas Sowell, man. He's one of the smartest guys that I've come across, and one of the smartest guys out here on the internet, man. Phenomenal. Wow. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. Keep God first in your life, America first. And I'm going to catch up with you all next time. Peace.